They're gonna start bringing you gifts because you fed them. You know crows do that?
Okay, we are marking a very phenomenal phenomenon. The entire AC Artistpreneur team is all together in one spot. And that never happens. We are all over the world. We are all digital bromads. Even though Steve here didn't know what a digital bromad as of like 12 hours ago, we educated him for sure. But we got Amar here. He is our head success coach for the Artistpreneur team. We got my CFO and one of my best friends I've known since fourth grade, Steve Lynn, in the house, living in Chicago. Amar's in Spain. And, Willie and I are just all over the place. Willie, this guy, head of sales, head of marketing, head of everything else pretty much. And we did a little retreat this year. We did a little retreat here. And I don't know if you noticed this big triangle behind us. That thing back there was pretty great, right? The Great Pyramid. We are here in Cairo, Egypt, at one of the oldest hotels in Cairo, the Marriott Mena. And what was it? What's the stats on it? It was like the first hotel ever here in Egypt when they discovered the Sphinx or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know about the first pyramid or the first hotel ever, but it was built in like the early 1800s, I believe, and then it was built by, I believe, a governor of Egypt back in that time. He built it as a hunting lodge, and then they ended up selling it to like an English couple who turned the place into a private residence, and since then they've sold it to a few different groups, but they've expanded, and it's housed, hospital actions during some World War. It's been a part of a peace treaty, and there's been many U.S. presidents that have come here, a bunch of ambassadors from other places. Really historic site that has just been right on the cusp of everything they've done with the pyramids from early discovery when they were first coming in. This was a place that they were using to do all of the archaeology stuff, and it has since just become a beacon for people who want to come to the pyramids because it is pretty much as close as you can get to the pyramids themselves. It's really, really cool. I mean, plus also they have a lot of cool amenities that we've been relaxing with. So, yeah, beautiful 40-acre plot of land. They built the first golf course in Egypt in like 1899 as well. It's closed right now, but you might be able to see the palace back here, which is like the original residences. They're under construction right now, but we've got a remarkable view too behind us. Anywhere you go, pretty much in the place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dope spot. Willie and I were here 2021 for one night, and we were like, our minds were blown. So we're like, we got to have the retreat here. So we're bringing everybody from around the globe here. We've been meeting in little business lounges and just bromadding it up. So first, I want to just kind of kick it off to these two guys and discuss because Cairo is a very interesting place. It is chaotic. I don't want to throw too many adjectives out there to give them any juice, but it's a very chaotic place, and if you're not familiar, never been here before, it can be a really interesting experience. So I want to kick it off to these guys one by one and just have them describe their experience when they first arrived. Been here about a week or so now, just strictly around the travel and just the experience of Cairo in general. So Amar, you're first. What is the one thing that you noticed when you pulled up late the other night and got in your Uber, or got in your taxi, and you made a new friend and everything? Kind of describe what your feelings were when you first pulled up here.
Here at the hotel, or in
Cairo.
Okay, so it felt like the taxi driver was playing real life GTA. He was zipping in and out in between cars. The traffic here is pretty insane. One of them described it as you have to flow like a river in the traffic. If you try and stick to traffic rules, you will have an accident. That was the first thing. It was kind of fun. It was very exciting at the same time. And then I guess it's like the communication breakdown almost. You think you're understanding what everybody's saying. It seems like they're understanding you, and then suddenly it's the complete opposite is happening. So that's pretty wild. That still keeps happening to us, even 5 days, a week in. Still kind of keeps happening on a regular.
Yeah, they try for sure. They definitely
Yeah.
try to. They're a lot more patient than we are, I feel like.
Oh, we had a delivery guy last night stay on the phone for like 20 minutes trying to explain how he didn't speak any English, trying to help us figure it out. He just kept speaking in Arabic. We didn't really understand it either, but we made it work.
We figured it out.
We figured it out. But it's fun. It's interesting.
What about your walk down to the store?
To the store?
Yeah, we went yesterday.
The walk back from the store?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. It reminds me a lot of India. I lived in India for 4 years, and it reminds me a lot of that. Very vibrant, lots of people doing this, just going about their daily lives. Very colorful, lots of lighting, random stuff happening in the street, crazy cars you see that are all beaten up all around. I love all that stuff. So, yeah.
Nice. What about?
Oh, yeah.
Let me tee you up. What about the Giza complex? We went out on quads. We weren't quite right next to the pyramids, but we saw like a panoramic view, and they were taking us out through Giza, and we told you it's probably not going to be quite what you expect. Kind of try to vividly describe what you experience driving these four-wheelers in a place where it doesn't really seem like four-wheelers should belong. Like, to talk about that.
How vividly? I could describe it. I could describe the smells. You don't want to know. So we got them in Giza, the old part of Giza, I guess, like the place that still remains kind of untouched by tourism or any kind of new developments. That's where we got the ATVs, the quads from. And then we had to drive around through Giza to get to the entrance to the Giza complex. And that was not pleasant for me. We drove through streets full of shit, burning piles of rubble. I was concerned for my health at that point. I was pretty sure I was inhaling toxic fumes the whole way there. But I did get to see a guy reverse park his camel. No, he did like a 3-point turn to get his camel in the driveway. That was hilarious. That was hilarious. Honestly, it was an unforgettable experience. And especially when we got there and we had the panoramic view of the pyramids from the top of the dunes, and then like doing the quads up and down, in and out of the dune stuff. That was pretty amazing, got to say. And we met one of the guides. He just had these amazing camera skills. You're gonna see probably some of that content. I don't know if you share that to this at all, but you'll see some of that. Produced by Michael Bay. They'll probably put like a little caption underneath it, but yeah, amazing experience.
Really eye-opening.
Amazing experience. I'm not talking about the pyramids yet, though. I think we'll let Steve talk about the pyramids themselves.
Yeah, no, I got something special for Steve.
Oh, nice.
So Willie and I have come here a couple other times, and every single time we want to come to this cool museum. It's called the Grand Egyptian Museum, or the GEM for short. It's an acronym. But it's never open. They've been building it for like freaking 20 years.
20 years
for like just as long as they've been building those things back. They built those things back there.
Yep.
And it's gonna be the largest archaeological museum in the world, but it's never open, right? It is quite grand, so of course it's gonna take some time, but it's never here. Like, is it open? No, kind of. They built the building, but all the stuff's moved, and all the stuff we wanted to see in the other museums is being transitioned into the other ones. So we didn't go to any other museums because there's nothing in there. But it's finally open, kind of. We had a little soft opening. They showed the like entryway. There's a bunch of stuff in there, but not even close to the amount of stuff that we could see. There was like over 100,000 artifacts. Most have never even been seen before.
10,000 plus have never been seen before.
Pretty incredible. But we were able to at least go in, so we were happy campers. And we got to bring these two guys along. And I think that was Steve's top of the list. So I want him to talk about the experience there in the museum, walking up to it, kind of seeing how grand it was. To you, Steve.
Yeah, so the coolest thing, just even on the walk up, the building itself has the 3 pyramids built into it, is like an artist's interpretation of the view. So you have the small pyramid, the Great Pyramid, and the others. It's all there. And outside there's also the giant obelisk, which is, I believe, the one that was damaged, or a different one. Yeah. And it's just stunning. So that's the first thing you see, is just the outdoor plus the obelisk. And then you get inside, and there's a massive, must be like 3 or 4 or 5 stories tall statue of one of the previous rulers, and it's just, you know, jaw-dropping as soon as you walk in the front door of this place. And then from there we walk through, and there's what they call the grand staircase, and it's just riddled with all of Egyptian history, from the statues to the historical accounts in stone to the graves and just everything you could ever imagine seeing. And this is just the grand opening staircase. This isn't any of the exhibits. Every single exhibit is still closed.
Yeah.
And so even that and that alone was just absolutely amazing. We probably spent at least 3 hours just in the lobby.
The
And
whole
so
thing's going to be an all-day thing.
yeah, as soon as that's open, I can't imagine getting through the entire place in one day. It was absolutely jaw-dropping, and they have grand plans for the future of the area that it's around. And I would recommend anybody that comes, even now, go see the gem, even if it's just the opening lobby. Well worth it.
Yeah, it was about 20 USD for at least just the entryway. Is that right? It came with a
Yeah,
guided tour,
yeah.
which I don't think you have an option to not do it, but definitely do it. But it was about 20 USD, right?
Absolutely. No, the guided tour was great. They kind of, because there's so few things compared to what there will be, they give you a guided tour to tell you everything you want to know about all of the things on the way up the grand staircase, as well as the front lobby. So well worth the trip, even if you can't get into the exhibits.
Yeah, that resort is going to be intense on the other side of that.
Yeah, the exhibit was showing at the very top the grand plans for the future, and there's a giant hotel resort going to be built between the gem and the pyramids with gorgeous views. And
Unobstructed.
you know,
Straight at it.
as in with Egypt fashion, it may take a little time to get there. You know, everything is methodical, it's well thought out, and with that, it takes time to get it done. And so, but that grand plan is pretty impressive. So maybe in 5, 10, or 15, maybe more, we'll
20
see.
more.
We'll get there.
The guy was saying that they're waiting on. The guide that we had was saying that they're waiting on the atmosphere to change as well, which could have something to do with maybe what's happening in the area and how that could be influencing the timing. I brought up to these guys here, I thought that this soft opening could have potentially been the real opening date for the full opening, because everything has been moved there. There are a few things that they're working on, but I would imagine that would happen no matter whether it was open fully or not. They'd probably still be finishing a few things. But I thought that this soft opening date was actually the hard opening date when they were going to open everything, because of the geographical atmosphere right now in this area. Like, I thought that is what I understood. He was saying that that's what slowed them down. They're waiting for the right moment. It's not that everything isn't ready. They're just waiting for the right moment at this point. And so, depending upon what happens, I mean, this area can be very tumultuous. So that could be 3 years. It could be a year. It could be 5 years. It could be 10 years. I mean, really, we have no idea. And I think that's the point and why they're trying to keep the date hidden to some extent, because they also don't know. And then when you have such a large-scale investment from I would imagine they're probably an American company, the company that's investing in the property of the resort out there in front of the gem. I would imagine they wouldn't want to be front and center with probably one of their largest scale investments ever during a tumultuous period in this geographical area. So yeah, I mean, it is part of Egypt fashion to take forever to do anything, architectural wise, but I do think that it has something to do with that nonetheless. And when they do it, we will be back together again. I'm confident to say that. But yeah, I that was a pretty incredible staircase. I mean, the stories of Ramses' military fights and his wins, and that opening statue was actually a daughter of one of the pharaohs. It was massive. I mean, probably 4 stories tall. I think you were right, 4 or 5 stories tall for just that statue. There's statues and tombs where they were supposedly buried in, and you just have all of these really, really remarkable stone structures. Luckily, Amar's going to get to see a lot of this really cool stuff down in Luxor, where a lot of it is still in its original position, but at least Steve got to see a good portion of some of the historical artifacts that Egypt has. I mean, that museum having 100,000 artifacts, I don't know any other civilization that could have such depth to historical artifacts in general. right? It's pretty remarkable being here. You're constantly surrounded by just an enormous amount of depth in history. Turkey was really cool because you have a lot of really, really old stuff, but it's a different kind of old stuff. Here, they were kicking some butt.
Yeah, it was like actually old then.
Yeah,
You know, it was, like, really old stuff. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's just been a crazy experience. We've, it's not gonna lie, like most of the time here, we've been kind of cuddled up here in this resort, which we've enjoyed. I think it's well deserved. We've hit some pretty cool milestones as a company, and we're kind of able to enjoy the fruits of our labor here. So we got to bring them out of the resort, out of the Golden Gates into Giza, and show them a lot of cool stuff, which we'll do more of later this month. But yeah, I think the main thing here with our retreat here is just like, of course, team building. I also just want to mention, like, it's cool to be in a place, in a situation where you can be a digital bromad, digital nomad, working remote. I think this is a topic that's really blowing up right now, where you can work remotely, but you can also have teams all over the place. But it's also good to come together too. I think we're seeing that as well. If you can agree, like, yeah, it's like I can do a Zoom meeting with Omar every other day during the week, but it just hits different when we can kind of connect one-on-one, like face to face. Like, Steve and I grew up together. We used to, meet all the time. Now we haven't been able to as much. So once we were able to like meet, we just get so much more crap done just face to face. So I think that's just something just worth mentioning outside the travel aspect of this, of just like actually meeting with your team one-on-one. Something Willie and I have been able to do this past year because we're traveling together and stuff. So yeah, I mean, if you're thinking of going the nomad lifestyle, like there's a balance of both, I think is important. We're worth mentioning. Of, yeah, don't live on Zoom meetings. It may not be the right call.
You can take the meetings, but you can also meet with people. Like, we bring clients out a lot of places, and I talk to people all the time on calls. They're like, "Oh, I don't always want to be on Zoom, like, for everything. I like meeting in person, but like you can have a balance of both. I mean, find success online, and it opens the door to so many magical things. And then when you have that success, it's much easier to attract the types of people that also want a similar lifestyle to you, and ultimately maybe just want the level of freedom. And you can present that in a way that in person can change from what you may typically think of it, right? Bringing clients out to different places like Colombia or Mexico City or Egypt or South Africa or any of these other places, Morocco, like, it's beautiful, right? Like, working with people is a wonderful thing, but that doesn't mean that you can't also work online. I don't think that you need to always box up this opinion of what remote work needs to look like. It can look a lot of different ways, and it should fit your lifestyle and your level of freedom and your work and ultimately what you want out of life. Because if you just constantly keep boxing it up into what it should be or what you think it can be or blah, 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 it's like you're not really flexing it to its full potential. And I think we've definitely done that this year by inviting people out and letting them also see how beautiful the world is and how chaotic it can be. Because if you can experience this chaos and then also work, like, dude, you can do whatever you want. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the small difficulties of work no longer become, these large things that you get in people's way. It's like, okay, if I can go out and deal with the beautiful chaos of Africa, if I can travel 3/4 of the way around the world with no problem and actually get things done, make sales, like talk to leads, like run a business, like when you go back home and you settle down and you sit into your desk, like, it's a piece of cake. And I think it's about building, again, a lifestyle that makes sense for you, your team, your clients, your leads, like your system. And yeah, I think we've really flexed that this year pretty well.
Yeah, I think just to highlight real fast, just each of us, like, there's no one size fits all. Like, you don't have to just be fully remote. Like, don't believe these gurus. It's just like, it's easy to make millions of dollars and travel the world, because it's freaking not. Yeah. So let me highlight real fast. Amar over here also runs an in-person studio in Spain, works with a bunch of clients. He has a couple other side jobs as well, along with working with us. That's okay. That works for him. That's fine. He's of course got dreams and goals of probably dropping a few of those, cutting back on some things, but ultimately he's doing a lot of things and focus, and that works for him. He likes doing that. Steve over here has a full-time job And he does this kind of on the side, and that works for him too. He's getting out of that potentially, but if he never wants to do that and wants to do both, I think that could work as well. That works fine, and he travels when he can. He's not traveling full time. He's kind of traveling part time. Me, on the other hand, I worked for Apple for 10 years while building this business and did this as the side hustle. Apple was the part-time side hustle for like the weekends. So I didn't work I didn't have any weekends because I worked the part-time job. That worked for me because I wanted health benefits, and I worked for a huge company, and I loved it. Willie waited tables. He did Uber on the side. He managed artists. He did a bunch of odd jobs, and that worked for him as well. So I just wanted to highlight that there's no freaking one size fits all. Like, you don't have to just go all in if that doesn't work for you. Some of our clients have full families, and they can't, of course, travel like as much as they want, but they want the freedom to be able to like just take off and have a vacation with their family when they want, and not have to put their business on hold. So just wanted to kind of start to close things out by saying, like, it doesn't have to have your business work for you. You don't have to work for it all the time. Like, you fit it. You fit the mold. You make the mold,
Yeah.
if you will. So just wanted to mention that.
We should end on their opinions of the pyramids themselves, their experience.
Yeah. Let's do that. Hit me with a short sentence or two on the pyramids experience that you had over there in Giza. Steve first.
Well, the coolest thing actually wasn't the pyramid itself for me. It was the tomb we went into, where we got down in there, and there's all these amazing stories on the walls describing who was buried there and what their legacy was. Merzank.
A queen's tomb.
A queen's tomb is right. Yeah. So we went down there, and everything's still painted in the Egyptian fashion. Everything is bright and beautiful, and the stories on the wall and all the important figures that were surrounding the whole story in there were all also present. So they have all these statues of like the mother and the children and everything else that was going on at the time, and it just makes that legacy live on. And so seeing all of that in such bright color, whereas a lot of the things that are outside, the color has been worn away in time. The story remains because it's chiseled in stone, but the color isn't present there. So that was just amazing for me.
Cool. And you, Amar?
For me, I really like that place too. In general, the pyramid complex, it's so much bigger than that you think it would be. Like, it takes fucking forever to walk from one part of the place to another in the blistering heat. I'd say like a couple of us maybe struggled a little bit with that. It was rough. It was rough. But it was totally worth it. Like, just going from pyramid to pyramid, kind of walking in between them, you get to see them from a lot of different angles. And then going inside them was also quite challenging. Like, you got to go through these narrow kind of tunnel ways that you got to crouch to get through for a little while. And in the end, like, you just get to this empty chamber, an empty tomb at the end. It's not all that exciting when you get to that tomb, at least in the small pyramid. The big pyramid, the box, I want to call it a box, is still there, like semi-broken, quite impressive. Like, part of the hallway, I want to say staircase hallway leading up to it, is so tall, it's just unimaginable. Like, looking up it from the bottom or looking down it from the top is kind of overwhelming almost. I don't even know. Was that the word I used? I used a word similar to that. It's very impressive. Very impressive.
What about the experience around, people approaching us and stuff? Talk about the realness. Just to prep them if they ever want to come.
Yeah, watch out for the cops. These cops pulled up on their camels, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we don't have a horn," but he started going "Nino, Nino" on the camel.
Yeah.
And then, like, they're trying to show us around, and very quickly, I think we realized, oh right, these guys want some money as well, and they did. They were like, "Oh, tip, you got a tip," just like showing us around to stuff that we didn't even want to see exactly. They would like, "Yeah, the Merzank is this way," and they would take us this way, and it wasn't that way. They're like, "Oh no, you still got to go around." So they were just drawing it out so that we would probably pay them more. But everyone is kind of like that. Like, just be careful. Just don't entertain them unless you actually want something. Try and avoid maybe even getting in a conversation with them to some extent. There was one guy at the Sphinx. He was telling us all how he's been working there since he was 8 years old, and he's just trying to help us. And I was moved, but I still don't know if I believed his story completely. Because I've heard stories about people wearing lanyards. They look very official, but it turns out they're not. So just, just
Be
keep an
careful.
eye out for that stuff.
Be
For
wise.
sure. For sure.
Cool. Overall, good experience though.
Overall, amazing. Do it.
Cairo. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we can end out here. I think the moral of the story is, come to Cairo. Be ready for what the two words I'd use to be described as Cairo is controlled chaos. It's very chaotic, but they still have like a methodical way of doing things, even on the roads, and the way that they haggle people and stuff. And it's overall like, here's the one thing I want to end on is like, don't be scared to come here. We get that a lot on our TikTok account as well. It's like everybody, all walks of life, they're scared of Egypt, things like that. We've been here 3 times, never felt any danger at all. People approach you and they're intense, but most people aren't gonna harm you. The security here is really, really great. They want to take care of people, especially tourists. So don't be afraid to come here. Yeah, they might like ask you for money, but they're not just gonna stab you or something. Like, that's not gonna happen. People are very friendly. They're welcoming. They want visitors here. So don't be afraid. So we convinced these two. I think both of them at one time were like, I don't know. Are you sure? Like, at least one time in our past, they were questioning like, maybe. Okay, let's do it. So if that's you, just rip off the Band-Aid and come.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
All right, peace. He probably went. Do it.